Have I been too hard on people who review comics and portrayed them in an incorrect light? I got some feedback a bit ago, and it's stuck with me because I think there was some honesty to it. So I'd like to go into that and talk a little bit about reviews of comics and how, at times, they can get a bit warped. Hey, everybody, this is Perch. A guy named Fritz Schnitzel. Sorry. He left. I'm assuming if he left a comment on one of the videos they did a while back, noting that I come back to this idea and that other people disliking comics the way they do it is wrong. And his comment, it was in the negative. It had the icon of the Hulk kind of angry, and it was from a bit ago. And the other basic thrust of it is, do I think that people are dumb in that when I say, hey, you can't trust reviews, that do I think people are too dumb to realize that on their own? And it was a good. First off, I want to praise the guy. I'm glad he left the comment he did. I asked for feedback and I asked for critical feedback as much as positive. The critical stuff is just as valuable to me. Other than yes, I know the audio quality is bad. Um, it's still valuable. It still irks me. You have no idea more than you, I'm sure. But I'm glad that he felt comfortable to post that. It was helpful because it caused me to take a look at myself and say, okay, well, what am I saying here that is getting in the way of the point? Because the point is not for people to come away with it thinking that I think they're rubes or that I hate a particular review or anything like that. It's more that the review itself and the act of the review can very heavily weight how the comic is perceived and how it's read. And a lot of people stick with that. They don't ever kind of expand beyond the review. And you take these videos, for example. I mean, it's not uncommon. Somebody's at work, they throw in some headphones, and they'll go through. They'll burn through 4 or 5 of these videos over the course of between lunch and a break, and they just kind of binge them for if that's the right term for listening to a podcast. But anyway, they binge the content, and then ideas, they go on about their life, and ideas get kind of stuck in their head. And I think that there's a couple of misnomers to those reviews that's worth pointing out. The other thing that I've heard, and people have now not posted this publicly, but I've had it posted sideways, so I want to just confront the elephant in the room, so to speak. It's the comment, you seem to have a problem with Richard Meyer or ya boy Zach. And no, this isn't a Richard Meyer or a Zach issue. He's a popular YouTuber who does critiques or roasts, depending on who you're talking to. They'll label it one way or the other. And so, therefore, he has a lot of attention. He gets a lot of a lot of views, obviously, for his videos. But the stuff that he does in terms of reviews that we're about to talk about is really no different than lots of other people. So I wouldn't say this is a Zach problem. It's a problem, right? And I think that if you start to label it like, oh, it's this guy, you're making fun of this guy, well, then once again, we're kind of missing the point. The point is not about a particular YouTuber. People can like whoever they like, obviously, like the styles, whatever else. It's more the what's being done. So to go into that a little bit, I'll use kind of this example I've used quite a bit lately. So I apologize if people have heard this many times before. But Miss Marvel as a comic book doesn't have a long history. I mean, we're talking what, 6 years? I think 6 or 7 years. I'm There's this time between 2010 and 2015 where it's all a big blur. It feels like now one year. I can. It's weird. I can identify kind of year by year in the 80s, in the 90s, in the 2000s. The Ultimate Universe came out here. Ultimate Spider-Man was here. Here's when DC did this storyline. Here's and so on. But the 2010 to about 2015 is just kind of one big mashup in my head. I'm not sure why. I'm curious if anybody else has the same, or if it's just in my life that's happened to be how things went. I did have my first kid in 2010, so that could explain. I think I just solved that mystery. The sleeplessness and chaos of fatherhood. Anyway, so I go back to Miss Marvel was this character, not a long history behind her, and she had a decent number of titles. She had her first run, and then she had a reboot that happened around Civil War, and then same creative team, but a restart, relaunched number one, relaunched more than reboot. And then came Civil War two, and there were two comics in this storyline. I think her Civil War two crossover is longer than two, but really there's two that encapsulate the storyline. Was that her idol Captain Marvel was doing predictive justice and locking up people, and Miss Marvel was helping to run the prison along with this kind of crazy, overzealous other student. It was the students are doing their part to help keep us safe was kind of the premise. It wasn't a well written storyline. I mean, by any accounts, whether you like G. Willow Wilson and you like Miss Marvel or not, there are better storylines and worse storylines in the Miss Marvel run, and this was probably one of the worst, if not the worst, because it had the unfortunate fact of being crammed into this pretty terrible Civil War two story. It's not storyline. I mean, the whole thing was ill conceived as a plot, and it was coming at a time. Bendis was on his way out. We've had that video before, and so there are all kinds of things wrong with this thing. And so Miss Marvel's running this prison. She realizes something is wrong. She's probably not doing the right thing, but her idol, Captain Marvel, Carol, is saying, no, this is the thing to do. So she's faced between like, well, the adult superhero must know better than me. And then she, becomes disillusioned kind of through that process and realizes she's doing the wrong thing. And a friend of hers gets, injured, crippled as a part of that. And she realizes her mistake. She caused some problems. And unfortunately, the kind of the storyline wraps with a little bit of a, oh man, it's okay, we're still friends. Kind of, that's how it shook out in the months to come. Which always bugged me, by the way, whenever a superhero, like they do these storylines where a civilian gets caught in the crossfire and they get injured in some way due to a superhero battle, and it's like, oh, but I feel terrible that this human who doesn't have powers was caught by my mistake, and I'll carry this guilt forever. It's like, or you could carry this crippled person over to old Reed Richards or the Beast. They could, or one of the many healers that exist within the mutant or superhero community, and you could just fix this thing right up. I mean, I'm just saying, if you have that guilt and you're responsible for this injury, maybe you should just go fix it. I, I don't know. Maybe no, we can't do that. That would be abusing powers. It's like, yeah, but you abuse the powers to get them injured in the first place. You did responsibility, great power. That seems like there's a phrase that goes in here somewhere, but well. Anyway, why I bring this up is that a lot of reviews now, whenever they talk about Miss Marvel, those issues got roasted and roasted and roasted, like lots of them. So this goes back to, it's not just Richard Meyer doing it. He did roast those videos, but dozens more. There's so many that hit those issues, and of course they do, because they're kind of, it was a ludicrous premise. It was not executed well, and you listen to a review, and this is the way a lot of these things work. You listen to Zach's review, and you look at the numbers, and it's like, wow, this thing's been viewed 25,000 times, and it's like, I think I'll do a review as well. And I've heard the jokes, so now I've got his jokes plus a few new ones of my own, and so it goes. And there's nothing wrong in what I just said about anyone. I mean, I'm doing reviews of the Dawn of X titles, and it's like, wow, this video got 1,000 views for no apparent reason. My normal videos are kind of in the 100, 200 range. All right, I guess I'll do more Dawn of X views. I mean, you're teaching me what you're interested in, so I'll do more of it. And I'm not monetized, so I'm not in the game as much as others. If there was a financial stake and component to this, then hell yeah, I'd be definitely doing what is being popular. And so you see these. I mean, so this is a natural chain. And what I just said, again, nothing is wrong in what I just said. People are just, it's capitalism. People are trying to make money, and good for them, or be popular or get views to their channel. Awesome. By the way, now's a good time to subscribe to Perch if you haven't already. But do what you got to do. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that. But as the listener, it's important to recognize at least part of this situation is going on, and not get caught up in hooking your entire understanding of a comic or property around a review that has some motives behind it. Again, not bad motives, just there's a reason for this review. And why this bugs me is that then people go and they have conversations, and you're trying to have a conversation with someone about a comic, and they're bleeding on about what they learned in this one video review that, number one, is showing a tiny slice of what's going on with this character. Number two, is not always accurate. So the other thing that goes on is sometimes in the rush to tell jokes and provide a good, entertaining, humorous review, you're skimming on the facts. And again, I want to hold myself up to the same standard. I'll do that as well. I'll skim through the issue. I'm not going to read line by line through the comic. I'm not going to, when I'm describing some, event in comic history, I'm going to give you the highlights, and I'm going to try and point you at where to go to get more details. But if I was talking about the DC implosion in the late 70s, uh, to give the full account of that whole story and everyone who was affected and all the ins and outs and present the whole case, it would be a 5-hour video at least, and nobody wants to listen to that, and I don't want to record it. So I'm giving you the details, and I try as best I can, and I can do better to say, hey, there's a lot more context here than what I'm saying. I'm giving you kind of some highlights. You should go check it out for yourself. Here's an area where I'm definitely going at a very, very 30,000 foot view of the situation, and I'm generalizing what I'm talking about, and you should go look for details. I try and do that because I think that's fair game. That's what should happen. But this is comics. I mean, I, I think that I think that people always benefit when they allow themselves to be at least opened up to the possibility that there's more to the story or to the review or to whatever it happens to be than they're hearing. And hopefully most of these videos, and I think I speak for the majority of YouTube people. I've talked to Thinking Critical about this. I've talked to Larry King about this. I've talked to the Robert Starcraft Welling about this. I'm going by their Twitter handles more than the YouTube channels. I mean, I've heard this. I know that I can go across the board. I know the Yellow Flash guy has also made this comment. I mean, we everybody in general is trying to present a certain piece of the picture, and very few of those people are trying to become the moral authority on all things comics. There is a, we're trying to give you our opinion, our commentary. That's why so many of these channels are called commentary channels, and we're giving you our perspective on things. And I think there's this underlying, hopefully message in all this that you should go off and you should make up your own mind. You should make up your own decision. We're giving you our opinion. That's it. I'm giving you my opinion. Now I'm not looking for everybody to take what I say and then go off and act upon it. I'm putting in some details that hopefully drive some curiosity, drive some interest in comics, drive people to want to learn more. That's the goal. It's why when it does bug me in YouTube, the videos that come up next or the recommended for you, they're all over the place, based on their lousy search algorithm. And at times I wish, hey, I wish these could be grouped a little bit better so I could get the full picture together. But at the same time, I mean, go hear other voices. Um, go listen to other parts of this comic. I think it's good for you, and I think it helps instruct us about what it is to believe. And over time, you're going to find people you like and people you don't like. I think there are some people who absolutely love and find Zach's reviews hilarious, and that's great. And there's some people that can't stand him because they don't like his reviews. There's some people who like him because of the battle he's had with Mark Waid. There's some people that hate him for the same reason. There's a big variety there, and over time, you're going to find the voices that you like. You're going to find people with good microphone quality that you want to listen to, and that's it's just like comics, like anything else. Your time is finite, and you should consume what makes you happy. Just with reviews and with news, please keep in the back of your head. There's one thing I would like to ask everybody to do. Like I said, all those names I mentioned before, I suspect they would all say the same thing. I need to write this stuff down. Just Some Guy, that guy. There's a guy called Just Some Guy, does channels. He has his own view of things. Some people agree, some people disagree. But he did say at one point that, you know, he wants people to go and have their own decisions on things. That, and I have to believe that. I have to believe that everybody really wants that at the end of the day. I'm just repeating myself. The one other piece I was going to add is that the one part of the reviews I do find not necessarily distasteful, but and it definitely makes them more roasts than reviews. But I've been surprised at how much this can tilt the understanding of a comic, especially when you're trying to avoid a copyright strike or anything else, and you're showing just a few panels, or you're skimming the comic. You're not showing page for page, and it's when reviewers do kind of the funny voices, the "Whoa, I'm just a superhero," and then they kind of make jokes about the comic. Why I dislike that is that it definitely does create a mood and an atmosphere to the comic that is not what the story is actually conveying. It's a good way to make fun of the comic, but if you're actually listening to that or you're watching that, and the characters all have funny voices, it makes it into a roast or a comedy, and you get a very different view of things. There was the Lockjaw comic, and I remember a bunch of people there again did roasts of that comic because of parts of it were ludicrous and everything else. But all the characters, many of the roasts did funny voices for D-Man, who was gay in the comic, and I think Lockjaw and various other people who are coming and going. And the voices got so over the top and so ridiculous that the voices were the show and the comic became secondary. And so people were like, "Whoa, this guy's doing this and this guy's doing," and it made the whole comic incorrect. If you actually picked up the comic and silently to yourself read the comic, you got a different view, a very different view of how the reviewers were reviewing it. I'm not saying the comic was magically a masterpiece, when you read it for yourself, and it was trash when somebody else reviewed it. I'm not saying that. It just the using props or using voices or doing kind of goofy things with the comic, it definitely is no longer a review at that point. It's definitely a different product. And it's very, I don't want to say subversive, but it's very easy for somebody who's just binging shows and listening to this stuff to forget that. And you're kind of going along, you're listening to this, and you're going, wow, this sounds really stupid. That was the case with me. I heard the Lockjaw review before reading the comic. I usually have them in the opposite order, but I happen to hear it. And I'm listening to it. I'm like, wow, this comic is terrible. This comic is absolutely terrible. And I'm like, I cannot. This sounds like one of the worst things that was published this year. And I'm like, yeah, God. And then later I went to the comic and I'm like, yeah, I need to look at this thing because this can't be what they published. And as I'm reading it, I'm like, well, yeah, this is what they published, but wow, it's a much different experience without all the jokes and the props and everything else going into the comic. It's a radically different experience. And so that was a kind of a wake up call to me. And I hope all of you guys keep that in the back of your head as well. Of just this is normal, right? We should all have our own opinions to comics. It sounds like a really stupid thing to say, by the way. I mean, at this point, 2020, we're having to tell each other, hey, make sure you make up your own mind about things. Yikes. I mean, how horrifying is that going into a presidential election? Anyway, there you have it. Hey, thanks for listening. Leave your comments below. Thanks to the Fritz here who brought this comment up. Definitely appreciate the posting that and calling me out on what he was seeing that I was saying. It like I said, it caused me to take a look at my own stuff and make sure that I'm doing things in a good way, and it gave me a chance to explain kind of the background. So I really appreciate that. Glad he does. All of you should feel welcome. Bring your critique. Bring your I don't like this. I do like this my way. One, I can take it. Two, it helps me be better, better person, better friend, better show. Aw, all the feels. Yeah, subverting fan expectations every single day. Hey, like, subscribe, or subvert my expectations by not subscribing, whatever you choose. Follow me on Twitter at Comic Perch, and most importantly, thanks for listening.